Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Universal Peace Federation. My name is Ray Lepalkin. And before we begin our program today, I'd like to read a little bit on the Universal Peace Federation, which we call UPF. It's an international and interreligious network of individuals and organizations, including representatives from religion, government, civil society, and the private sector, and it's dedicated to achieving world peace. An NGO in general consultative status with the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations, UPF supports the work of UN, particularly in the areas of interfaith peace building, peace education, and the strengthening of marriage and family. There are many critical challenges facing our world at this time, from poverty, climate change, to conflict and inequality. At the same time, the rise of civil society initiatives and the expansion of Track 2 diplomatic efforts involving people-to-people relations provide new dynamics that can complement and support the work of governments in the search for solutions to our world's most pressing problems. UPF has developed a strong track record of accomplishment. Our commitment to service, partnership, and cooperation are hallmarks of our work. Through forums, seminars, conferences, service programs, and interfaith peace initiatives, UPF is building a global network of peace builders to contribute to a world of sustainable peace in which everyone can live in freedom, harmony, cooperation, and prosperity. We invite you to join our effort, share your ideas, and contribute to this global effort to build a world of sustainable and lasting peace. And one of the associations within UPF, there are a number we're working with ministers, with the academic field, the parliamentarian political field, and one is media and journalists. And today we're going to be watching, that's actually part 2 of a webinar that we had for IMAP, which is the International Media Association for Peace. I'd like to read a little bit about IMAP. The International Media Association for Peace recognizes the vital role that journalists play in guarding against totalitarianism and supporting the expansion of freedom. IMAP represents a worldwide professional networks of journalists who support a socially responsible and moral media to convey accurate content, address the challenges of our time based on the highest principles of ethical journalism, and understanding that universal values are key elements of a world of peace. So the video that we're going to be watching is part 2. It was on a webinar that we recently had, and it was called Media Responsibility to Defend Religious Freedom. And the guest panelist on this is Mrs. Susanna Kaneer, and she's a public affairs director for the Church of Scientology in the Western United States. So please enjoy the program. The next speaker is Ms. Susanna Kaneer, and she will be speaking. She is the public affairs director for the Church of Scientology in the Western United States. And her topic will be the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and a church's campaign for its application. Ms. Kaneer has worked with her church for the past 24 years. In her capacity as public affairs director, she's organized numerous community events, mainly focused on the humanitarian campaigns that the Church of Scientology sponsors, namely human rights education, drug education, disaster response, and moral education. In this capacity, she's worked with the interfaith community, law enforcement, educators, and many others to create partnerships and dynamic teamwork for the benefit of all. Welcome, Ms. Kaneer.
Thank you so much. Do you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, hi, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to this event. I love working with the interfaith community and doing a lot of, combined activities, and I've enjoyed the effort. So thank you for having me. The first thing is just kind of put in perspective on why I'm going to talk about what I'm going to talk about. I wanted to read you the aims of Scientology that was written by Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard. And he said, "A civilization without insanity, without criminals, and without war, where the able can prosper and honest beings can have rights, and where man is free to rise to greater heights, are the aims of Scientology." So a little, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was touched upon a little bit earlier. And in order to put this in perspective, what I just said, is that our founder stressed a lot for Scientologists as religious people to go out and actually make, an impact and difference in the world around them. Religion is not just for yourself. You do it for, in any way you can better your own environment. And one area that really needed betterment was human rights. So that's why we work very, very strongly on human rights education. And actually, this dates back to 1948, when the United Nations wrote the Universal Declaration on Human Rights. Whereas the United States has beautiful laws laid out that, preserve rights for everyone. That was not the case in many European countries and other places where those rights were completely destroyed after World War II. So born out of those atrocities that occurred to humankind after World War II, Eleanor Roosevelt was the one that, led the writing of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So what we have been working on very strongly in my church is to spread awareness. There is an organization that we work with and sponsor called United for Human Rights, and the sister organization Youth for Human Rights. And I want to show you on the screen. Okay, so this is a booklet. I hope you can see it. It's called The Story of Human Rights. And it is one of the educational materials in our human rights awareness project to actually make sure people around us are, know what the human rights are, because they're actually laid out in 30 precise articles. Now, those 30 precise articles are fairly lengthy. So to handle that, this is United for Human Rights for Children. And it has those 30 articles written in a way that anyone can pick them up, even a 5-year-old, and understand how they should treat their friends and how they should treat their family. Because the problem we are facing today is human rights violations are very, very covered in media. As we all were aware of, media likes to focus on scandals and bad news. That's unfortunately how they work. But in between all of that, you do actually see, in between their sensationalized news, you do also see that there are some incredible extreme atrocities happening. And that is on a world level. But then what about in a person's neighborhood, with getting people to accept each other and different religions, as an example? And I wanted to quote Eleanor Roosevelt because she said that when she wrote the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and she said, "Where after all the universal human rights begin, in small places close to home, so close and so small they cannot be seen on any map of the world. Unless these rights have meaning there, they have little meaning anywhere. Without concerted citizen action to uphold them close to home, we should look in vain for progress in the larger world." So that's why we put together audiovisual materials, educator curriculums for teachers, and we work and partner with a great many friends in the interfaith community to just, spread the news of human rights. So now I'm talking to, to an audience here, which are, all very aware people who very much understand and accept religious freedom, and, people to be able to accept, understand and, use their own religions in the world. But then it is upon us to apply Article number 29 of human rights, which is on a point of responsibility. And I want to read you one point here. It said, in Article 29, it said, everyone has duties to the community in which alone the free and full development of his personality is possible. So we then have duties to educate, inform, and bring to understanding others in regards to human rights. And just basic human rights, we have religious rights. There are many other rights as well. And in order to make it all encompassing and make everybody feel included, we work on education of human rights. And of course, religious right is a huge part of it, but there are many other rights as well. And if you have a person that you see doing something, speak out. If media is covering something in a negative view that is clearly going against somebody's religious rights, any other rights, write a letter. Download the materials on human rights on humanrights.com and educate yourself and see how you can help others also educate them. And if you do this and keep doing it, and specifically helping children understanding what human rights are, they will treat others differently. They will be the next generations of leaders in this world. And we are gonna keep doing this so the same mistakes and atrocities are not repeated in the next generation. So that is my message. And, I consider very honored to speak with all of you. And I look forward to any questions you might have about my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kaneer. Yes, again, you brought so many valid points. Thank you so much for representing not just Scientology, but churches throughout America, throughout the world, and bringing awareness, especially to the interfaith community you had mentioned you're working with. And
yeah,
you gave a lot of suggestions on how to take steps. So if you don't mind, I'll call you an activist. You're a religious freedom activist. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
And you're making through these materials accessible to everybody. And one thing particularly I was happy about that you mentioned was human rights education for children. And we're really seeing a problem with that in the United States right now. I can't imagine what's taking place around the globe with the corruption of young children and human rights violations. So again, thank you so much for your presentation today.
Thank you.
I want to thank Dr. Kaufman for such an excellent presentation, and Ms. Kaneer, and also Reverend Higuchi. It's so important what we're doing. We're very grateful for the International Religious Freedom Roundtable that has been really organizing so many people who are involved all over the world. And the situation of religious freedom is getting worse all over the world. It's a crisis. And I was happy Dr. Kaufman pointed out that the threat is very real in the United States. And also, we're joining with Ambassador Sam Brownback. We're going to be a partner in a program, we meaning the Washington Times Foundation, is going to join on January 31st with the International Religious Freedom Summit. And he's had this program several years. He was the ambassador at large for international religious freedom at the State Department. And we're just really excited about that. We would like everyone to consider participating in that because it's a very successful program that has really brought together all of the key religious freedom scholars and also religious leaders to really, and also the people who are being affected, to really petition all of our organizations to come together and really educate people about religious freedom and the central role it plays to allow for freedom of speech and every other freedom. And I think Dr. Kaufman highlighted that well. Thank you for all you're doing, Ray, and the IMAP team. This is a very important program today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. Okay, if we can, let's go to our Q&A. But first of all, I'd like to also acknowledge the other team members from IMAP. Mr. Larry Moffat is the Secretary General for UPF North America, helped out putting the program together, as well as Hans Moyer, the Executive Director of IMAP for North America, and Pierre Beauregard is the IMAP representative for Canada. So thank you all. And a couple of questions. This was actually submitted by Pierre Beauregard, our IMAP director from Canada. And his comment and question is for our panelists. Evidence shows that only a minority of those people who leave a religion end up actually denouncing or disavowing this religion. So why then does the media focus so much on what Pierre is calling atrocity stories brought up by such a small minority of people? So we always hear these horror stories of people's experience. Why does the media focus on that? And Hans Moyer had somewhat of a follow-up question that we could incorporate with this. And if you can comment on this as well, how can the public keep the media accountable for such things?
It's open for discussion. Okay, Ms. Kaneer, yes.
Yeah, okay, so I think all those points are very, very, very good observations on how the media operates. Unfortunately, the viewpoint, the basing they're reporting on, not in all cases, but in many cases, specifically mainstream media, is that things has to include a controversy, opposing forces, sensationalize things, war, crime, sex. Those are the things that sell in their viewpoint. That's literally what they think it is. And if those things don't exist, they make them up because then they can sell news. So news in those cases are actually not reporting a fact-finding activity. It is sensationalized and writing with a viewpoint what can sell. So it is definitely within our responsibility to speak out against that. Journalists are actually meant, believe it or not, to follow an ethics code. And so I think the person would do is to write to the editor or of that newspaper or write to the owner of the TV station. And with enough people doing that, they will listen. Because if they are saying something about a certain religion or anything and any other activity that you disagree with, hearing from people that have benefited from that activity will actually start making a difference. And the other thing, in addition to attacking or answering back on what media is doing, what is very important is to flourish and prosper and keep doing well. I know people of many religions are always engaged in a lot of humanitarian causes. Publicize those humanitarian causes. It is good news. Make your efforts and what you're putting into mankind known to other people and keep doing good things.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
I'd say very quickly that there's a kind of a hierarchical tree in what eventually makes news. Susanna mentioned perfectly that the quick and hard-hitting news is always deliberately seeks controversy, and it will always be attracted to a more sensationalistic story. I don't know what can be done about that, but there is one way that media operates a little more responsibly, and that is you go from books to longer researched articles to substantial researched articles. Then you hit the day-to-day sensational gathering things. So if there could be a journalistic piece that studies that very problem per se, what percent of people who leave new religions retain a positive relationship with it? What percent are hostile and speak negatively? That becomes a reference or source of news. I know there's journalists on the call, and I don't want to be offensive or insulting, but it's very frequent that journalists under heavy pressure, they just hit the file cabinet, pull out what's there. And if it can start to be that good stuff is there, that's what they'll grab. And that's what will start to make available for these journalists to produce more balanced pieces.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kaufman.
Okay, can I talk about that? Yes, this is the religious minority in Japan. Is Unification Church is so small populations, our members, but very influential organizations, but still very minority. But as Dr. Frank mentions, the media don't have any experience or understanding about religion, especially Christianity. In Japan, is so many God and religions is culturally believed, and so I realized this time it's Christian country in the United States, religious freedom countries. But Japan, once you get in the particular religions and extremely believe, they think we are brainwashed. They are painting to the religious activities to cults. They are not understanding, not have experience. They lack of the feeling and knowledge about religions in Japan. So it's huge cultural differences in the background, religious background differences, I felt this time the United States of America is the champion of religious freedom. Thank you, very appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Higuchi. Yeah, just a couple thoughts that I had was on that topic. One is just being responsible within our organization, which all three of you are doing. And another point is just educating, which again, all three of you are doing in your organization. So my suggestion, keep doing what you're doing, keep reaching out, and let's keep having seminars like this. Let's keep finding other people who are fighting for religious freedom, exposing the atrocities that are taking place. And I think through uniting and finding that common cause, then we can bring change. So thank you again to all the panelists who were here today. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. I was going to ask if each panelist can give a concluding remark for just a minute or so. Ms. Kaneer, Dr. Kaufman, and then Reverend Higuchi, if you would. Ms.
Speak
Kaneer, do you have
first.
just a Ms.
Me
Kaneer, do you have
first?
just a closing
Uh-huh.
comment?
I'd just like to thank the organizers and thank my fellow panelists. I learned a lot. Also, not just for the presentation, but for the lives you lead, for your commitment to good. Thank Luke for tremendous life of faith and for the story of your saintly course. So it's just a word of thanks from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kaufman.
And I can follow up, and I thank you all, everyone as well. It was very, very interesting to hear from all of you. And one thing that I want to leave with, which I feel is very encouraging to me sometimes, is to know that the biggest majority of people in this world are very social personalities, and they want people to do well and be successful in life, and they care about their fellow beings. So we just always have to be really big beings and keep educating people on their human rights, keep the interfaith community strong. And in that way, we're just going to make more and more social personalities come out and speak out for, the goodness of everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you. I really want to appreciate, grateful to the IMAP staff, Ray and Broken, and thank you for inviting me to give opportunity to speak out the crisis in Japan. So I really want to everyone keep paying attention, and then somehow we can give the pressure to the Japanese government and Japanese people, encourage Japanese members from the United States of America. This is a champion of the religious freedom country. Thank you so much for everyone. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Reverend Higuchi. Again, thank you to our panelists. That was excellent presentations and discussion. And thank you to everybody who joined us on Facebook and some of the other streaming media. Really grateful.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that. And after Ms. Kaneer's presentation, we also had a little Q&A with some of the other panelists from this program. And you could always watch these in its entirety if you go to our website, us.upf.org, and look under events. And the other association webinars are listed there as well, and you can watch those in full. One event that the Universal Peace Federation and the Washington Times Foundation partnered and co-sponsored it was in Washington, D.C. recently. It was the International Religious Freedom Conference, where hundreds of people came from around the world and speaking up for religious freedom, promoting religious freedom around the world. And they created like a little charter, and I'd like to read some from that. The right of freedom of religion and conscience belongs to every person by virtue of his or her humanity and reflects the core of his or her dignity and personhood. Men and women are endowed with reason and free will, and by their nature desire the truth, which religion seeks to provide. The right to religious freedom is enshrined in Article 18 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which declares, everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom either alone or in community with others and in public or private to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship, and observance. The denial of religious freedom to any person is to deny his or her right to live a fully human life and to flourish as a human being. Religious freedom is important to human beings because religion is important to human beings. The vast majority of the world's people belong to a religious community or are religious in some form. Protecting religious freedom equally for all persons, for all their respective religious communities, is critical to individual human flourishing, the flourishing of religion, and the flourishing of nations. Whereas the striving of nations towards full equality of religious freedom for all their citizens and all their religious and non-religious communities can contribute to social harmony, economic prosperity, political stability, and the lowering of religion-related violence. The achievement by nations of religious freedom for all their citizens and religious communities, protected in law and valued by culture, would dramatically increase international justice, stability, and peace. So this gives you an idea of who was there and some of the thoughts that were presented at this conference. And again, if these ideas and concepts resonate with you and you'd like to participate with us, our contact information has been up on the screen and it'll be at the end of the program as well. Our website, us.upf.org, or talk to one of our representatives. We'll get back with you. And I always like to offer complimentary copies of the biographies of our co-founders, Reverend Sun Myung Moon and his wife, Dr. Hak Jahan Moon. Get in touch with one of us if you'd like a copy of their biography. And hope to hear from you, and thank you for joining us today.